as you can see, at 75 yards outstanding with both rifles. This wasn't a bad little run with either of them. 8 shots. This is with the milled arsenal, standing 75 yards out. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hits. 1 fire, that was my fault, off to the left. And with the milled Norinco Mac 90, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the throat, and 8 makes the graze. So I would say, like I said before in my previous video on the milled Mac 90, that the milled Mac 90 is slightly more accurate. My last video on the milled Norinco Mac 90, one of the viewers asked me how I felt the milled Norinco Mac 90 compared to the milled Arsenal AK. I told him what I thought, but it also gave me an idea to do a video on the subject. So I decided to do a video comparison of the two. First and foremost, you will notice something different about the Mac 90 right off the bat. I had contemplated replacing the rear stock with a conventional pistol grip and stock setup, but just on a whim and as an experiment, I wanted to see what would happen if I cut out this middle piece here. I didn't even know if this thing was hollow or solid. Luckily for me, it was solid, and so I cut through that, and I filed this down and sanded it down, and I made some clean cuts through it, and these look basically like they're from the factory, and it's as smooth as can be, and I like it. I like the way that looks. I thought to myself, you know what, if it looks like shit, I'm just gonna replace it anyway, but I think it looks cool. And I shot it today, and there is no difference in recoil, and I don't think it compromises the structure in any way. Anyway, so the principal differences between these two rifles are basically that the milled Mac 90 is much thicker and heavier than the milled Arsenal SLR 101S. Start up at the front. Some of the other main differences between the two rifles are obviously the Mac 90 has no muzzle attachment, and the SLR 101S has this muzzle brake on it. And of course, the Chinese AKs, as you know, have the enclosed front sight, and the European AKs have the open front sight. And also this milled Mac 90 barrel is much thicker than this Bulgarian milled Arsenal barrel. And of course, coming through the country such as it did, and I talked about this a little bit in previous videos. There's no bayonet lug on this rifle to go along with the no muzzle attachment. Of course, this rifle has a bayonet lug. The milled SLR 101S also has a unique feature for being a milled Kalashnikov rifle, as I discussed in my previous video on this rifle, comparing it to the SGL-21. This milled AK has a setup, gas tube and gas block setup similar to that of the AKM and the 100 series AKs, and the milled Mac 90 has the traditional setup for a milled AK rifle. Both rifles have 800-meter rear sights and have thicker receivers than conventional stamped AKs. However, all of the external and internal components of the milled Mac 90 are thicker and heavier than on the milled Bulgarian Arsenal SLR 101S. In fact, the best way for me to show that to you is by comparing the thickness of receivers. The best way for you to tell that from the outside is looking from this angle where the magazines go into the weapon. Take a good look at that. I would say, get them both even here, you could see that plain as day. I would say that the milled Chinese AK receiver on the bottom is double the thickness of the Bulgarian one on the top. I think that the Norinco is slightly better quality, slightly better made, and I also think it's slightly more accurate. I think that the Arsenal is very, very well made as well, and the Arsenal SLR 101S is no slouch either. So, you know, by all means, I mean, if basically, I said this before, I think if you can find a Chinese AK, like, you know, one of the Norincos or the Polytechs, I definitely would jump at that opportunity. But you know, those, you know, because they have been banned from import for so long, they are much fewer and further in between. So if you come across one of these milled Arsenal AKs, I think it's a really, really great rifle. I think it's extremely high quality and extremely accurate. So I highly recommend it. I'll give you guys another look at it, another angle. I think it looks cool personally.